Hi guys, I'm taking a little walk out here in the green belt by my house, and I was having a thought. I've been collecting watches for about 10 years now, and I think that vintage Seiko watches are the best deal out there. And here's some reasons why I feel that way. Number one, affordability. Between the 1950s and 1980s, Seiko produced hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of watches. There's so many of them out there, so many different models, so many different versions of watches that they're just out there and they're cheap. Seiko models can be found at garage sales. You can find them at pawn shops. You can find them on classified ads. You can find them on watch forums. There's so much vintage Seiko out there that you have many options, and many of them are cheap. And that's a great thing if you're starting out and you're not sure if you want to spend a lot of money or not spend a lot of money. Dip your toe in the water, don't jump in all the way, and start off with something cheap. Even if it doesn't run, wear it around, see if you like it. And if you decide you do, then you can buy something a little bit more expensive, or you can afford to get it serviced. But if you want to start off cheap. Alright, here's my second factor, and that would be variety. If you want to collect vintage Seiko, there are so many different ways that you can do it. You can collect dress watches. There are so many different Seiko vintage lines. There's Lord Maddox, there's Grand Seikos, you name it. You can find it out there. You can collect sport watches like chronographs or divers. You can collect alarms like the Bell Maddox series. You can even collect quartz, mechanical or automatic. There's so much to choose from as far as vintage Seiko goes, and there's so many different dial and variants of even each particular model that there's almost no possibility that you could collect them all. Alright, so here's number 3, and I think it's value. You look at a lot of Swiss watches, and especially vintage Swiss watches, the prices have just shot up, especially in the past 5 to 10 years. Seiko is not immune to that, and their prices have also shot up. But I would say that the value is much better with the vintage Seiko watch than it is with the vintage Swiss watch. Compare vintage chronographs. If you look at, let's say, a Valjoux 7733, 7734, 7736, in a major Swiss brand, even today, in 2020, you're probably going to spend somewhere between $1,000 to say $5,000 depending on the brand. Seiko, you're going to get a much better value. An automatic chronograph from the 6139 series, you can find a decent one for $500. A 6138, which is the double counter like the bullhead that I have, probably under $1,000. And that's, to me, a pretty good deal. If you're not sure, if you want to be collecting watches, definitely you want to go with something that's more affordable than more expensive. And Seiko is just a great value. Alright, number 4, parts availability. Let's be honest, owning an old watch is a lot like owning an old car. It's not a question of whether it will break, but when. And knowing that old watches and old cars break down, you're going to need to be able to find parts. Swiss watches, they can be extremely difficult to find parts for. Maybe you have a small brand watch, maybe you have an off-brand watch, and you need to find a new dial for it, or you need to find new hands for it. If it's something that's not readily available or it's not especially common, it's going to be damn near impossible. Seiko, on the other hand, they made so many watches back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s that there's always going to be a chance that you can find that dial, hands, movement, case, crystal, bracelet somewhere. And if you want to collect old watches, you need to be able to find the parts for them. And so that's why I think Seiko is a great option. You can find the parts, they're readily available. Look on eBay, look on the watch forums, they're out there. Number 5, reliability. When I think about Seiko, especially comparing it to a car brand, I would compare it to an old Toyota pickup truck. Sure, it may not be the most glamorous brand, it may not be the fastest brand, it may not be even the coolest brand, but it's very reliable. It will keep running, and it will keep running for many, many years with minimal service. There's so many of them out there that are 40, 50, even 60 years old and still running strong. And a big reason for that is just because the design is so great. Seiko did not overly complicate their designs. They made designs that made sense. They made designs that were cheap. They made designs that were easy to service and easy to find parts for. And so that's a big factor if you're thinking about collecting watches. And that's a big reason why I like Seiko as well. It's because I know that these Seiko watches will run pretty much forever. All right, so here's a bonus category: style. When you think about Seiko, think about all the fantastic vintage models that they have, and models that really don't look like anything else that's out there. You got the bullhead, for example, like I showed you, the Seiko Pogue, the Seiko Turtle, the World Timer. There's so many different models, and they really don't look like anything else that's out there. You know, I think for me that's a big factor when I'm collecting stuff. I don't want something that every other collector is going to have. I want something that's going to be a little bit unique and interesting. All right, so that's it for me. I think vintage Seiko is a great value overall. There's so much variety. There's so many models out there to choose from. Parts are available. They're easy to service. They're not all that expensive. I think it's a overall just great option, especially if you're looking to collect watches for the first time. But you tell me what you think. Have you had experience collecting Seiko or some other brand? Do you think there's a better value out there? And if so, what do you think? Tell me in the comments below. Thanks.